Welcome back to Sunrise Daily. Well, yes, indeed, keeping our focus on the telecommunications sector. We've got Mr. Adebayo Shittu, the Minister of Communications here. Thank you for coming on this morning.
It's my pleasure being here.
Well, the complaints won't stop coming in this industry, especially when they talk about the quality of service. There are those who think that the telecom companies take the country or citizens for a ride owing to that QoS, and they think that that is under your watch. What is your ministry doing to ensure that this is no longer the case?
Well, I want to welcome myself here. I'm coming here for the first time. And I want to also commend the very big, beautiful job you people are doing here.
Thank you.
I am an addict of your programs, and I want to say you are doing very, very well. This is the standard we expect of all media houses in Nigeria. Having said that, I would also say that the telecom industry, I believe, is still evolving. You would recall that before 1999, or up till 1999, Nigeria had analog, telecom service. For a country of about 160 million at that time, we had only less than 500,000 lines. And to get a line at that time, you had to pay through your nose, and even then the services were not, good enough. I recall that at that time, if you had to call overseas, you couldn't do that from the comfort of your home. You had to go to a NITEL facility where you pay and you are on the queue until, it is your turn. And for 2-3 minutes, you knew how much you had to pay. Thank God that the government at that time, sold off NITEL and invited the entire world, because we didn't have the technology. It was just evolving, at the international level. The government at that time invited, investors and telecom operators from all over the world to come and bid, for for licensing, for the new GSM telecom. And people bidded, and we made a lot of money at that time. One of the basic requirements that we ought to have had is regular electricity. We never had it. And up till now, you all will bear witness that we are still a long way to go in getting electricity. GSM relies essentially on electricity. Today, when a GSM company, opens shop, it not only have to provide all the infrastructure that is required, the mass,
Are you making excuses for the telecom company?
I'm not. I'm still laying the foundation. Except if you just want a yes or no answer. I'm not making, this is supposed to be an informed platform where people have to look at where we are coming from, and where we are, and then, look up to where we are supposed to be. You will recall also that it's not only in the telecom sector that Nigeria is really at the back burner. So what I'm saying is I'm trying to build an argument, and I hope you would want to listen to all of this argument. So today, as things are, for any telecom company to operate, you not only have to provide all the infrastructure, but you also have to provide electricity 24/7. What I'm saying is, this is a capital-intensive industry which requires a lot of, capital. Unfortunately, Nigeria is the only place I know where you have to provide your own electricity if you are opening shop. Having said that, everything that I'm sorry I have to say this, everything that every other person suffers with regard to low quality of service on telecoms, I also am a victim of it, including unsolicited text messages, including having to, at times, you buy and it happens to me. And when I say this, a lot of people, are amazed that it could happen. When at times I buy credit of 1,000 naira.
Now, that's the major problem, because we just interviewed Deolu in Lagos State, and he said that there's really nothing that can be done by anybody. Does it seem to suggest that...
Sorry, he hasn't finished. Let him land on when he buys 1,000 naira credit.
I buy 1,000 naira.
It's just an addition to
credit, yeah.
And at times, I only 800 naira is recorded.
Whoa.
And I have to phone.
Only 800 naira?
Yes, it has happened to me.
So are you helpless?
That's interesting.
Well, I'm not helpless, but I'm just telling you, I'm building the scenario to show that, government appreciates that there's low quality of service. What are we to do? On a number of occasions, I've had to call the GSM companies to virtually read the right acts to them. I'm also the agency under us which supervises by way of regulation, by way of punishment, by way of licensing and so on, is NCC. Because of the preponderance of these iniquities, quote and unquote, the NCC has had to, introduce, a toll number for people to make complaints. And this is still on. Again, when the new board of NCC was inaugurated by me about 3-4 months ago, I also gave them the charge that they should work hand in hand with the management of NCC to ensure there's a stop to this. But the problem, really, one of the problems is this. A lot of these are brought about by those called value-added service agents of the telecoms industry, people who are given space. But again, that is not an excuse for us. The excuse is that the GSM companies are the ones Nigerians have contracted with when you take their line, and they must do the needful. The problem again is this: when there's an iniquity, quote and unquote, for the my inability immediately to get another word, I call it iniquity, but I want to put it in parentheses, is the fact that to seek for redress in some of these iniquities, the cost of seeking for redress is more often than not more than the redress you're actually wanting to seek redress on. But the last thing we have discussed between me and the management of NCC is that we should be getting to the stage of punishing them, like we did in the case of MTN, for lack of SIM card non-registration.
What stops you from doing that?
Law, we see we are guided by regulations. The law at the time it was made never anticipated that we will have GSM companies in place. People will enter the contract with them, and then there will be these there will be these quality of service issues, which would become almost unending.
So they are not untouchable.
They are not untouchable. Certainly they are not untouchable, and I'm sure that with the charge that I've given to the management of NCC, they must, within the next couple of weeks, bring up, a final solution to it. If it requires our having to go to the National Assembly for an amendment of the law, we'll have to do it. In the case of, for instance, the unregistered thing, it had been in the regulation, in the law, that for every SIM card that is actively in use, without it being priorly, without there being prior registration, you pay 200,000.
I was going to ask you, when you say that it is, it costs more to seek redress, than the actual infraction itself, what did you mean by that? For
instance, if somehow they reduce your credit, for instance, if they take off